Hello lovely people, my name is Emma and today I have a slightly different video coming at you. So I am feeling like absolute crap. I have come down with a cold. It is like a gajillion degrees in the UK at the moment. I can't regulate my temperature, I can't stop sneezing, life is sad. So we're sat on the floor with the fluffs and we're going to do something a little bit different. Basically I was watching a video by Books and Lala that was basically a bunch of video ideas she had abandoned over her time in BookTube, and one of them that is a format that a few people have done but she didn't personally want to do is the reacting to either very highly rated reviews of books that you don't like, or indeed reading 1-star reviews of books that are your favourite. But she said that she didn't really like doing either of these videos because basically it just comes down to like difference of opinion and you just end up repeating either getting angry and being like, how could you say that about my favourite book, or this book sucked, or you just sit there being like, well, people have differences of opinions. And I totally get where she's coming from. I've thought about doing these videos a few times and I've decided not to, because having read some of the reviews in advance to see what it would be like, I've decided that I just really don't want to create that kind of content. But as I was watching her video I was thinking, like, there are a whole bunch of books on my shelves that I don't know how I feel about them. Like, I have very mixed feelings about them. I don't know whether features of them are problematic or not. I don't know if it's something that I actually enjoyed, and it's something which, you know, you think with more time maybe you'll be able to settle with your opinions of these. I have like a lot of 3-star books that could either be a 2-star or a 4-star, but I don't actually know, because I don't really know how I reacted to it. So today what I'm going to do is I've picked 5 books that I have very mixed emotions about, and I'm going to read a couple of 5-star reviews from people on GoodReads about these books, and I'm going to read some 1-star reviews about the same book, and I'm going to see which bits of the 2 reviews that I agree on, and potentially this will help me make up my mind about the book. Potentially it won't, it'll just make me more confused, but I thought that this could be an interesting format for us all. And yeah, basically that's what you got. So I've got my laptop. The first book I'm going to be talking about, I'm going to chuck it here very briefly, is Severance by Ling Ma. Now actually this one I've read this month and I've not done my wrap up yet because we still have a bit of August left, so you're going to get a sneak peek as to some of my emotions on it. But essentially it's a dystopian fiction where the people in it turn into zombies, where they repeat the same tasks over and over again in favour of like feeding themselves or taking care of themselves or anything like that, and they essentially waste away. And it's a weird disease that they get. It's some kind of fever that they have, and it's kind of a weird cross between that and like your classic dystopian fiction. So I don't really know how I feel. It made me grumpy a lot of the time. The things that I did like was the dystopian fiction parts of it, and the things that I really hated was the like being like all this kind of commentary on like society and how we just repeat crap over and over again. So yeah, that kind of made me grumpy. So we're going to start off with some 5-star reviews. So let's see what we got. Monica has written that Severance is a very clever, dare I say, brilliant allegory and or modern day fable / meditation on how we, specifically urban but in general all, humans go about living our lives. This was a millennial novel that hit the spot for this borderline baby boomer / generation Xer. Ma wrote, the author wrote a zombie novel that seems to ask why fear the zombie apocalypse when we are already zombies. The author takes aim at our extremely fast-paced, material-driven, internet-immersed society and wonders what's the point. She also takes aim at traditional roles and nostalgia and the mythologies of the past and the struggles of the past. For me, this was a powerful novel that looks at the life we have today and ponders the relevance. I can see where Monica is coming from. Like, I get what the author was trying to do, but I just personally found that it fell really flat for me, because like I get really sick of this kind of bullshit commentary of like, oh, we're just robots and we all do the same thing over and over again, and what even is the meaning of life? Because it's like, yeah, cool story bro, but like unfortunately I can't turn around to my landlord one day and be like, hey, I can't pay rent this month because I was busy exploring the meaning of life and breaking out of my like routine where I go to work every day, because, you know, we live in a capitalist society where you have to trade your labours for money. And unfortunately, like, I've done the whole like following my dream, became an entrepreneur, ran my own business, and guess what? Life gets repetitive no matter where you are. You travel to the other side of the world, you'll find a bunch of people doing the same freaking thing over and over again, and it just kind of, I get really annoyed. Like, I think there are so many books out there that do like the ennui of the human existence better than what Severance did. Maybe I do know my opinions about this book. So I disagree with that 5-star review. Let's read a 1-star review and see if it confirms my thoughts. Maybe this video is just going to be me getting grumpy. I was intending it to be not. Okay, my rating in a nutshell. This is from Chris. It's a 1-star review. Very flat, very dull, extremely confusing, very shallow-minded, mostly uninteresting and quite disappointing. 1 or less star if that's possible. Wow. Is this a book with a planned satire of consumerism? Or is this a story of relationships, work and personal and survival? It's extremely confusing and my brain hurts trying to figure out what the hell all these dense, jagged, scattered pieces connect to even make a plot. Perhaps there is no intended plot. If it's post-apocalyptic, then there shouldn't be a plot. Not yet anyway, until the smoke clears. Hey, I'm being snarky now. Yeah, now this is a bit of a disjointed review, which is fair. Like, my reviews on GoodReads are not good at all. So I get where Chris is coming from completely, and I think this definitely like hinges on what I was saying earlier, that like if it is a planned satire and consumerism, then it doesn't do a very good job. His kind of discussion about the relationship side of things is actually one of the few areas which I think Severance did quite well. I generally enjoyed the kind of discussion of that post-apocalyptic group, the idea of like there being a group leader and their ideals, and feeling trapped by opposition and almost becoming like a cult-like status because you don't have many options open to you when there aren't that many people around. I generally didn't mind the main character's discussion about relationships as well. I found that the ending was terrible, but let's face it, no dystopian fiction can ever end particularly well. So like I kind of get where Chris is coming from, but I would be a little bit more sympathetic to some of the sections of the book. I read one earlier that was just like, yeah, it just said Station 11 did this so much better, and like I 100% agree. If you want to read something like Severance, don't read Station 11. It's 1,000 times better, and it covers the exact same thing, and it has all the interesting discussions about like what is the internet like and nostalgia for the past days and all this kind of thing, but actually has good characters, a genuine plot, and it's really interesting and covers the ennui of the human existence in a way that doesn't make you want to like shove the book through your brain. So that was Severance. So I'm now going to move on to the next book, which is we're going to do Lord of Misrule by Jaimy Gordon. Now this is a book that I read pre my YouTube channel, so you haven't seen my opinions. In fact, all the other books now I think are pre-YouTube for me, but this is basically a story about a small-time horse racing kind of ring, and it follows a few characters there. And one of the reasons why I'm really conflicted about it is because it felt like one of these books where you just jump into the middle of a bunch of characters' lives and then you jump back out at the end and nothing really properly happens. And there isn't like an overarching plot, there's just a series of events that the author fairly arbitrarily like caps at both ends, and you're like, cool, horses, racing, a bit of crime, things happen. Like nothing really kind of stuck personally with me, but it has resonated as one that I do like think back to over and over again, so I'd quite like to kind of break this down a bit more. Oh, some sirens, that's fun. Okay, let's go for the 5-star review. This book, as it turns out, actually won the National Book Award. So, and Maya is talking about this book and the fact that it won this and saying that that's like quite a kind of dark horse thing, because it is a very strange book, and it's because this is the kind of challenging, inventive novel that doesn't sell many copies or get noticed by big outlets because it's so different, and different isn't like starry things. It's not a novel for everybody. If I were teaching this novel, I would give a pep talk or two about how to persevere and the rewards of doing so. The language itself is a texture thing, its own lithe animal. At times Gordon risks losing the reader, but then there are flashes of brilliance in a description or in a sharp line of dialogue that make you sit up and see the world anew. Think Emily Dickinson on a horse track. You feel and smell the dust of the place and come away with a strangely precise sense of the characters. The thing that will pull you in and keep you going is the outcome of the races within it. The novel is structured around 4, and the stakes involved for the motley crew of owners, groomers and hands. Read for the plot, stay for the language. You will find arresting, gorgeous prose at every turn. Okay, yes, no, now that she's kind of mentioned it, the horse races are the thing that it kind of hinges on. I hadn't really, again, like I say, it's been a good few years since I read it, but actually she's right that there is potentially more structure to it than I'm giving it credit for, because it does hinge around a very particular set of horse races and the outcome of those. So potentially this like disjointedness is something that if you're more tuned into the racing aspect of it, and I kind of picked it up not really realizing how focused on horse racing it was going to be. So maybe it's one that like if you have a bit more of a background in horse racing, you will appreciate it more. And I completely agree with her, it's not a novel for everyone, but her comments on like that idea of the author kind of losing you but then pulling you back with really strong dialogue, or like the actual writing style itself, is 100% like how I felt. And I think it's those moments of like losing it that are making me very conflicted. But she's completely right that the author like clearly has a lot of talent, but is difficult to grapple with. It's one I've really contemplated rereading a few times, so like this is actually making me feel a bit more positive about the book in general, because I thought that maybe it was just like me being an idiot, but actually that's fair, that's fair. Right, let's read a 1 star and like completely shoot that all in the foot. So many of these are DNF ones and I don't want to read a DNF. Oh right, yeah, she didn't use speech marks, which is something that some people struggle with, and actually I have struggled with in the past, but didn't bother me yet. I find that like once you're past the first chapter you don't really care. It's just that first chapter which is difficult, so people being like I quit at the 70-page mark is just like, yeah, this sucks. Like everybody's bad reviews are just people who haven't finished it. Okay, this one's good. Okay, Sarah says, Gordon's writing was so stylized and complex that I often was bogged down in decoding it. The further I read, the more I imagined how simple the actual story was, stripped of its blatant and florid language. I amused myself by envisioning a screen adaptation. Casting ideas, anyone? So wading through ungangly descriptions was just not my cup of tea. If you relish someone twisting the human language in a pretzel, this one's for you. Okay, yeah, again, I can see where Sarah's coming from, and this is definitely like a kind of a pun not intended, horses for courses kind of situation. I generally don't like overwritten work, and I have reacted very badly to books in the past that have been more of like an expression of the human, of like the English language, rather than like actually doing anything with them. And this might be where my like unsettledness about this book came in. I think having now read the 5-star review and sort of thinking about it a little bit more, I'm more inclined to be very sympathetic to this book, and actually, do you know what, like I did enjoy it, but I can totally see why people will be turned off. The fact that so many people's negative reviews are just DNFing it, like literally like most of them on this GoodReads are just people putting it down, definitely speaks to then that 5-star review of the idea of like the author losing you. And I guess this is one where like I'm all up for DNFing books, but maybe this is one where it is worth DNFing if you really aren't getting on with it. I don't know, it's hard to, or like worth not DNFing because there is a lot of reward at the end. It's hard to really tell with these things, but I think having a background in horse racing would help. But I feel more positive about this. I've given it a 3-star, but I might bump that up to a 4 now, because actually I can see where it's coming from. Apparently there was an error. Okay, I'm not allowed to bump it up, that's fine. So my next book that I'm going to talk about is All the Birds in the Sky by Charlie Jane Anders. So this one has a sequel that's just come out. Everyone's very excited about it, and this is what prompted me to read it, because I remember enjoying the reading process and then the ending really pissing me off and like casting quite a bad judgment over this book, and I'm like really umming and ahhing about whether I'm going to bother with a sequel, because I also don't remember really enough of the first book that I'd probably have to go back and read it again. But I have such a like weird mixed memory of like loving sections of it and absolutely loathing sections of it, and like not knowing how I feel about it. So basically it's a weird one. We have childhood friends, Patricia who's a witch and Lawrence who's a mad scientist. We get some of their like scientist and witch backgrounds, and then basically there's some kind of like apocalypse at the end, and they are trying to fix and save the world, and it mentions things like super science and things like that, which might be the kind of thing that annoyed me. Generally I remember it being a bit wacky and weird, so let's read a 5-star review. Essentially it's boiling down to the people who are super excited about it just say that it's really fun because it's sci-fi magical realism without it actually being sci-fi magical realism, and that all the quirkiness and the zaniness is a plus point. I don't think I'm enjoying this book. I think that reading these reviews are reminding me of all the crap that I didn't like about it. Let's read a 1-star and confirm that thought. Oh, this one says, if you want an epic rant, read on. Profanity and spoilers. Don't worry, I won't say anything that spoils anything particularly. So Rachel, who gave it 1 star, says, I hated this book. The writing is shitty. It's wildly uneven and trying way too hard to be relevant to an ironic hipster internet crowd. Yes, girl. That's what got to me. Yes, girl. Which doesn't really exist except in a liberal website comment section and people's political rant blogs. This is amazing. And if I have to read another eco-friendly, locally sourced vegan hole-in-the-wall restaurant that our characters go to pick up their overpriced coffees whilst the world is crumbling around them, and they know people are dying in refugee camps, I will scream, girl, this is a fantastic review. The story was shitty. It utterly fell apart in the second half. Nothing made sense. The magic wasn't any better either. I don't want to read the bits that are clearly going to be spoilers. The story is supposed to be somehow about Patricia and Lawrence being fated to either end the world or save the world when they grow up, but it sure does spend a lot of time on these two things. Basically Patricia being a douche and Lawrence being a douche. Oh, and Lawrence being sex obsessed about Patricia. Yeah, it goes on for a huge rant, which I'm not going to read because that is the spoilery bit, but I 100% agree with everything she's saying. And then it's, the characters were shitty. Our main characters are soul-sucking, helpless, waffling dipshits shoved into a shitty romance with each other. The side characters were heartless arseholes, like the abusive parents, school bullies, horrible friends, assassin bent on killing children, and at least one authority figure who sees an abused naked boy in a closet and does the equivalent of yawn and look away. Wow, I don't remember it being this bad. Maybe it was. Maybe I was distracted by the absurd funnies. Okay, like, I'm agreeing with her. Maybe this should be a 2-star read. I probably won't read the next one. Yeah, I think it's just that, like, idea of the hipster language really like connects. So All the Birds in the Sky, not a good one, we have decided. We're actually going to do 4 because I don't want to talk about the last ones because my throat's hurting and this is taking longer than I thought it would, and I want to go make myself a cup of tea, even though it is 32 degrees and nobody should be drinking a hot drink right now, and this is the worst time in the world to get cold because I want a hot water bottle but I don't want to kill myself with the heat. This sucks. Okay, the last one is Beauty Queens by Libba Bray, who is a booktube darling, but this book of hers is not one that particularly gets high praise. It's essentially a weird parody spoof of Lord of the Flies, but it's where 50 beauty pageant contestants end up stranded on a desert island. I remember thinking that this was either genius or one of the most irritating things I'd ever read, and I kept flicking backwards and forwards between the two, which is why I'm going to read some reviews. Let's do a 5-star. Predominantly the positive reviews are talking about the various discussions that the book does have about sexism and gender, which yes, it does, and that is one of the reasons why I thought that it could be really good and might be really good. So this is a review from Elise, which is, this is one of the funniest books I've ever read in my life. If you're looking for an afternoon laughing about how fucked up our society is, laughing at all aspects of society and of women's beauty queen treatment, this is the perfect book for you. It's odd, offbeat, sarcastic kind of humour. The real strength of this book is, despite the comedy aspects, this book goes deeper. Beauty Queens is not a story about stereotypically bitchy mean girls. In fact, it's full of messages about finding yourself. There's also so much diversity in this book. If the offbeat tone works for you, this is completely worth a read. It's fucking hilarious. I did enjoy a lot of the aspects of it, and like, she's entirely right. Libba Bray, like, ticks the boxes for cool diversity, very good. I just found that there were certain aspects of it that got too, like, wacky and weird for me, and I think those are probably what the 1 stars are going to be mentioning. And some of the discussions felt very, like, flat when it comes to the actual nuances behind some of the issues that she was talking about. And again, because I read Beauty Queens a couple of years ago, this was pre-booktube, so I don't have anything like immediately to bring to mind that I can kind of mention, but I remember reading a few things and being like, oh, that's a really two-dimensional, one-sided way of looking at that debate, which it's a fiction book, and I think it's YA, and like, it doesn't have much room, and it's not trying to be an essay collection about beauty norms, so that's totally fair, but equally it is kind of irritating. This is Sabrina, gave it 1 star. She nearly DNF'd it, but she kept going. Good girl, means I can read your review, not reading ones that DNF them. We want to stick to the end. She thought she was going to enjoy this book because of the positive reviews, and she was wrong. Oh, so terribly wrong. Because not only did this book not meet my expectations, but it was so bad that I didn't even want to finish it. I had to force myself to finish this novel for the pure purpose of me hoping it would get better. And it didn't. No, instead I got more of an unpredictable plotline mixed in with a slewful, that's not a word, of randomness, and this book had the potential to work if it just took itself a bit more seriously. I felt like I was being talked down to when I read this book. I understand Libba Bray trying to make teenage girls feel better about themselves and go all gung-ho for feminism, girl power, we can do it sort of attitudes, but I mean, come on! I found this book exhausting to read. It was as if I had one of those teachers who thought they knew everything and I, as a student, knew nothing at all. Talk about annoying. I'm all for feminism and making girls feel empowered, but using cliches and overused sayings does nothing for the book except make the reader yawn and roll her eyes. Sorry, there was a hiccup there. It's boring and we've been through this again and again. Yep, I 100% agree, and actually that is definitely, I think because Libba Bray leans so heavily on satire and humour, if you don't like her particular brand of humour, this book isn't going to work for you. And if that isn't going to work for you, it means that all of her like deeper, meaningful issues that she's trying to discuss are going to fall completely flat, because they have this really thick coating of the humour on top of them. So it's something where her humour kind of landed maybe 50% of the time with me, which probably then lends itself to why I'm feeling so conflicted about this book in general. So I 100% agree. I think I'm going to stick with my 3-star rating for that one, because actually there are sections of it, sorry my foot's gone to sleep, there are sections of it that I definitely did really enjoy, but also I think that Libba Bray could have done much more with it, and actually there are probably better retellings of Lord of the Flies with Just All Girls out there. I can't think of I know that there are 2 or 3 that have also been written that do really well in reviews, but I can't think of them right now. So if you know them, do comment them down below. I'd probably be interested in reading something about it again. Oh, there's some cabbage underneath my foot from the rabbits. There we go. Have some cabbage, babies. So that's pretty much it from me. A bit of a different kind of video. Do you have any books that you like don't know how you feel about them, and like how heavily do you rely on Goodreads reviews about these kinds of things? Like, this was really interesting to read, and I do actually hang out in the Goodreads review section quite a lot, even though I don't personally write reviews myself on Goodreads particularly. I'll link my Goodreads down below if you do want to ever follow me, because whilst I don't review much, I give star ratings and I update my currently reading, and I do a lot of stuff with bookshelves, so you're welcome to join me there. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Did you like this style of video? Let me know. Have a wonderful reading week, and I'll hopefully see you soon when I'm not really fucking ill. Bye!